Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for my friend, Mr. Ray.
Let's start with a heavy topic this time around. 2003, I was in Los Angeles at a poetry venue, and it was March 16th, and somebody walked past the venue and said, "Bush announced the war on Iraq, somebody should shoot him." And I was like, well, it got pretty heavy after from there. So for me, I mean, like, you know, I look at ulterior motives for going to Afghanistan. You know, it didn't have anything to do with the poppy fields. And then the tenuous link of the uranium-235 yellow cake that Dave Chappelle even made fun of, and he came on stage with the yellow cake literally eating it. So, you know, and then if you know an acronym, Operation Enduring Freedom, they called it, but the original name was Operation Iraqi Liberation, so that's OIL. Now you know why they changed it to Operation Enduring Freedom. So, you know, the soldiers got there, Saddam had people burning the oil fields, and the American soldiers were trying to save the oil fields, so they were really there to liberate the people, they were there to liberate the oil. Let's keep it real, you know? So my poem is going to talk about all of that. Everybody knows I do a different poem every week, and I'm like, why isn't this one gelling in my head? So I really hope I don't mess it up, because it's an important poem, but let's just see what happens. Thanks, Elika, for keeping me company. Sometimes I'm the only poet here, most times I'm like, where's Elika? And then I know there's a fellow poet out here. Every time I feel I'm going to blank, dramatic pauses, learn that from the drama teacher. Sanctions against Iraq created starvation. The withholding of baby food, toilet paper, toothpaste, chlorine, and other forms of water purification. When would the US government open their eyes? Sanctions brought about a shortage of medicine and medical supplies. The sanctions caused the death of more than 1 million Iraqis, the terrible result of bringing the country to its knees. Every month, roughly 5,000 or so children died that were under the age of 5. Sanctions made it very hard for the people of Iraq to survive. Many cases of mental retardation, over 8,000 schools that were in need of renovation. Drinking water decreased by 300%, polluted water increased by 600%. When would the US government finally relent? Iraq, a 7,000-year-old civilization, now forced to exist in isolation. Hospital wards as cold as the hearts that fought to sanction. Hospitals with lighting that was dim. An elderly diabetic forced to go without insulin. Doctors and nurses struggling against all odds, doing their best not to give in to despair. The US government saw their sanctions as raw, but they really didn't care. Machines held together with wire and string, plastic bags making an oxygen tank. A decade of sanctions brought this about, and a cold-hearted government. I wasn't really looking to get involved in this debate, but I had to be reading about 25% of the Iraqi children being born dangerously underweight. A food rationing program lacking in protein. I had to ask myself, what would make the US government act so mean? America was so outraged and disgusted when Timothy McVeigh caused the death of children at a daycare centre. Well, I had 3 more zeros, and you had the number of children that died every month for a decade as a result of sanctions against Iraq. Sanctions enforced by the UN Security Council. The term baby killers applies to them too. Don't throw stones in glass houses. Don't throw stones in glass houses. 20 million Iraqis affected. Letters from Ramsey Clark that were rejected. The sanctions China, Russia and France sought to modify. The US government basically told them, don't even try. The actions of the council were clearly insane, promoting false propaganda like blame Saddam Hussein. Sanctions didn't stop Hussein from spending billions on his military, so to say that the sanctions were effective was a fallacy.
Thank you so much, Ray.